So Donald Trump and the Republicans are telling us right now that just like Nixon told us in 1972, he had a secret plan to end the Vietnam War, and he couldn't tell us about it until after the election. And so he got reelected, and then we discovered, as he later told David Frost, there was no secret plan. Trump is saying he's got a secret plan to fix health care. It's going to be better than Obamacare, better than Medicare for all, but he can't tell us about it until after the election. Do you think the American people are going to buy it? Check it out, and don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell. Some just startling news about health care. Americans borrowed $88 billion last year to pay for health care. We are literally the only developed country in the world where people borrow money to get health care. We are the only developed country in the world where people experience bankruptcy, over 600,000 of them last year, or as a consequence of somebody getting sick. The number of bankruptcies as a consequence of sickness in Canada last year, 0. Last decade, 0. Any European country, pretty much all European countries, 0. You know, other countries around the world that have healthcare, you know, Japan, Taiwan, I mean, 0, right? Australia, 0. In the United States, 600,000 last year. And Americans borrowed $88 billion to pay for health care. Tennessee just knocked 128,000 children off TennCare. This is the program that's an expansion of Medicaid. You know, you get a Republican government, and that's what happens. I mean, this is pretty much exclusively happening in red states, in Republican states. Alabama is doing it, Mississippi is doing it, Tennessee is doing it. You know, states where Republicans control, they are figuring out ways to deny people health insurance. And an interesting piece in the New York Times today. 48% of voters worry about paying their health care bills. 66% of people who are sick are worried, and 49% are very worried about what the Republicans might do. And half of all people in America who get sick in any given year have a problem paying their medical bills over the course of that year. So Donald Trump and the Republicans now tell us that they have a secret plan. Seriously, a secret plan that they're going to unveil sometime after the 2002 elections. I mean, seriously, right? If you're old enough to remember the election in 1972, and you know probably some of us are, and if you're not, you need to be sure to tell somebody younger about that. The way that Nixon, I mean, the Vietnam War was raging in 72. The Watergate burglary had just come to light, but the investigation had just started. And Nixon's whole thing was, I'm going to end the war in Vietnam. Now, keep in mind, he's the guy who extended the war in Vietnam in 68 by committing treason and blowing up the peace deal that LBJ had worked out with South Vietnam and North Vietnam. He blew that up. He continued the war for 4 years. Another couple tens of thousands of Americans died. Probably another million Vietnamese died. And then Nixon came out and he said, just like tens of thousands of Americans are dying for lack of health insurance and health care. And then Nixon came out and said, well, I've got a secret plan to end the Vietnam War. And I can't reveal the details, of course, because that's the whole point of a secret plan. But don't worry, right after the 1972 elections, we will be able to quickly end the war once the elections are out of the way and it's no longer politicized. Because George McGovern was running on this campaign of, I'm going to end the war. Nixon's like, no, I'm the president. I can do this. I got this under control. And people believed him. And they reelected him. And so now Trump is coming out and he's saying, well, we're working on a plan. We've got a plan. It's a secret plan. In fact, the right-wing newspaper, and there's this right-wing newspaper in Washington, D.C. It's called the Washington Examiner. I'm pretty sure they give it away for free. Funded by, billionaires or big corporations or God only knows what. And the headline, White House working on secret health care plan with 3 conservative think tanks. This is, positive good news in their mind. It's by Emily Ward. The White House is quietly working on a health care policy proposal to replace the Affordable Care Act, according to multiple sources with knowledge of the matter. They're working. They told the Washington Examiner that they're working with the Heritage Foundation, the Mercatus Center, and the Hoover Institute. Trump said on Tuesday, Republicans would soon be the party of health care. Right. The actual secret plan that we just learned about this week, and by the way, my question for the hour, essentially, my question for you is, do you think that Trump is going to get away with this? Will the Republicans be able to pull this off? And if so, how? And if not, why? Because they did it in '72 and it worked. And, one of Nixon's principal advisors back then was Roger Stone. And, he's still good buddies with Donald Trump. But the actual secret plan, there actually was a secret Trump healthcare plan that was put together before the election and was nailed down after the election and before the inauguration. And Senator Bob Casey held up 3 Republican appointees, put holds on them, in order to force the Trump administration to give him a copy of this secret plan. It was a 10-point plan to destroy Obamacare, to destroy the Affordable Care Act. And Bob Casey literally just got a copy of it. This was from a meeting that was held on March 23rd, right after Trump was inaugurated president. And, it looked like the Republican efforts to destroy the Affordable Care Act were chaotic and, just willy-nilly. Turns out it was actually quite well organized. They had this 10-point plan, including cutting the sign-up period in half for Obamacare. This was all designed to destroy Obamacare. Give states the ability to allow and to determine whether insurers actually had to provide all the benefits that Obamacare required. See, Obamacare says, for example, you have to pay for birth control. You have to pay for routine examinations. They actually save money over time. Well, now in a Republican state, they could say, no, you don't have to pay for that. Or you have to pay for cancer therapy after it costs $1 million. Oh, no, you don't have to pay for that. Another part of it is to encourage the states to build less robust exchanges than required by Obamacare. Make it harder for people to sign up. Prevent healthcare providers from steering patients to Obamacare plans. So if you go to your doctor and you say, geez, my insurance company is killing me. I can't afford this. And right now the doctor can say, well, have you checked out the Obamacare plans? They're subsidized. It's much less expensive. Trump wants to put a gag order on this, just like, some doctors in some states can't say, oh, well, you're pregnant, you can get an abortion. Here's where you can go. The gag rule. By the way, in this meeting where Mick Mulvaney, Tom Price, and members of the House Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows has been championing this. These are, I call them the Cokehead Caucus, right? These are the guys who take lots and lots of money from the Cokes and the Coke Network and the whole right-wing thing. One of our listeners one of our regular listeners who was over on Facebook this morning had a suggestion for the new name for that. And I thought I had that person's, it was Kurt Scammell. And he says that it should be called the Pay Out of Pocket Plan. The GOP Pay Out of Pocket Healthcare Plan. I tweeted this out this morning. Hashtag, right? Pay out of pocket. POOP. Sure enough, the Republican healthcare poop plan. Seriously, not seriously, but that's really, other people were kind of responding on Twitter with other acronyms that spelled out words that I can't say on the radio. And but this is it. I'm wondering if this is actually going to, in a big way, help the Republicans. Just to take a serious, sober look at this for a moment. The thing, according to all the exit polls, that caused Democrats to take back control of the House of Representatives in the election last year was health care. They looked at the Trump administration. Trump had said, I'm going to give you better health care at a lower cost. He didn't even touch the topic in the first 2 years other than to do everything he could to damage Obamacare. And the Democrats were saying, we're going to give you health care. Medicare for all, whatever. We're going to fix it. And Americans were like, okay. But there's still a lot of Trump voters out there, right? They voted for Trump the first time. They voted for a Democrat 2 years later. And Trump is going to come along in 2 more years and say, hey, vote for the Republicans this time. We've got a plan. They'll roll out something. Remember when Newt Gingrich came out with his contract on America? It had 10 points. 6 of those 10 points pointed to one piece of legislation, which was a tax cut for rich people. Several of the other ones pointed to another piece of legislation that was a tax cut for corporations. You know, it was pointed out in the newspapers, but it didn't stop them from marketing it. We've got this 10-point plan. And every one of those points was a benefit statement. It didn't have the features. It didn't have the details. I'm telling you, the Republicans are going to do this again. They're going to say, here's the plan. They're going to give it a nice name. It's going to be a BS plan, just like the contract on America was. And I think that it may take the wind out of the Democrats' sails. What do you think?